Today I'm sharing my first ever hand knit sweater and a new pattern I'm launching into the world today. Hey friends, welcome back to the Hannah G Knits podcast. I am Hannah, the maker here behind Hannah G Knits. I'm a mom and a knitter, and I live in Central North Carolina with my family. I share projects I'm working on, finished objects, a few hobby-related things at the end. If you're into that, I am so glad you're here. Today is just a regular project updates video for you. I'm going to go ahead and say I only have a few projects to talk about. I wanted to still record this because I really want to talk about them. But if you're looking for any of my other projects, I'm going to send you to my last video because I actually have a lot of projects on my needles. I just haven't made any progress in the last 2 weeks on anything else other than what I'm talking about today. Let's get started. First is my first ever hand knit sweater. No. I've made a lot of hand knit sweaters. This is my first ever hand dyed yarn sweater. I generally am more of a commercial yarn girl, partially because of budget. I mean, that's why it started off. But also because I just find it easier to work with in terms of color consistency. I'm already working on a knit, and so I don't really want to have to go do a lot of color management. That's just a personal preference. I think hand-dyed yarn is beautiful, and I love to support the hand dyers that make it, but I usually go for more of like a sock or a hat if I have hand-dyed yarn. But I have a sweater. Now, you might be thinking, Hannah, you've made one before. I have made a Surrey and wool sweater held together, and the Surrey was hand-dyed. So I definitely have made that. That is my other hand-dyed yarn sweater that I've made. That I love. I've already worn it this season, even though it's still much too warm because it's Surrey, and I held it with Knitting for All of Heavy Merino, so it's quite heavyweight sweater, but anyway, that's beside the point. I am using my Woolberry yarn I talked about in my last video where I could not decide what to cast on with it. I decided it's the Prospect Pullover, and I've actually made a lot of progress on it. It's kind of messy right now. Okay, this is a lot. It looks like a lot of progress when I see it on here. Okay, maybe it looks like less than I thought. The last 2 weeks, I have really been working on a sample knit and getting that sent off. So I mailed that yesterday, and so now I'm free to make my own knit. I wanted to get that, done, blocked, sent off, mailed, and then really focus on something for myself. But I actually had a few days while I waited for the approval process and label and all of that, and so I really have been knitting on this almost monogamously because I'm just really excited about it and it's working out. Some of my other projects are iffy right now, and so this feels like, okay, I'm loving this. I am making the Prospect Pullover by Tori, and I'm using Woolberry Fiber Co. New York in the fall. It is a lovely sort of like purpley mauve color, and it's the natural DK base. Really loving it. I am making it to pattern except for two things. One is I added an extra inch at the underarm just because that I wanted a little more length for that. And then I also added this welt to the neckband. So I modified the neckband a little bit. I added this welt here, and then I didn't do the knit rows and bind off. I've been wanting to try this welt right here before the ribbing and see what it was like, and this felt like a good sweater because it already had so much texture. Just adding a little bit more would be fun. I will link the tutorial that I used to do this if you guys aren't familiar with it. It's from an Instagram reel. I think that she also maybe has a YouTube video about it. It was super easy, basically a little double knitting, and then you do your ribbing as usual. So I love it. My only concern is that the arm is flaring out a little bit. I am doing like a size 2 sweater, but I knit the size 4 sleeves because I did add that extra inch. And so it's more of like, I guess there's going to be some more ease here in the sleeve than there is like in the body. So I don't know if that's why it's like flaring out, or if it's just the way that the texture is like vertically versus horizontally. It's giving it a little bit of a different shape. Anyway, I am hoping something like this will block out because it is a texture thing, I'm thinking, versus like a mistake I've made, although it may be a mistake I've made since I did modify the armhole depth. But anyway, I am overall really happy with it. I was actually, I'm in 2 balls already, and I'm on my 3rd one. And I just like realized maybe I should be managing the color. Even though it's a fairly solid color, I do notice like a little bit of variegation in there. So please let me know if you use a lot of hand-dyed yarn. Am I supposed to be rotating the balls of yarn? Or like fading them in? I don't know. My first instinct was no, because I thought it was so solid. But now that I look at it, there's definitely like some differences. So I don't know. Please let me know. But so far so good for my first fully hand-dyed yarn sweater. And I just can't wait to wear it. I'm going for like everyday wear, throw over, that kind of thing. I might have to redo the collar because it's a little tight, but easy, I can do that. Anyway, yeah, I'm loving it. So that is my new work in progress. Again, I have lots of other works in progress. I have a cabled vest, I have a Vertices Unite, I've got a sock, I've got a hat. I just have a lot, and I have not made progress on them because I've been working on this and my sample knit, but mostly this after I finish the sample knit. Okay, the second one is a new pattern that is going out into the world probably today. If you're watching this as I'm planning it out, who knows, my plans often are not quite going to plan these days, but this is the initial sweater. This is a raglan sweater, and this one's for my son. He goes by O, so there's an O on it. And my intention with this sweater was to create a sort of first sweater, but also have it be one that any kind of knitter would love to make. So it is a classic raglan. To me, it feels easy. Now, here is a caveat. This pattern does have short rows, but after going through testing and all of that, my test knitters recommended I create a version without short rows because I'm wanting it to be really beginner friendly. And to me, that means lots of instructions, lots of links, fairly basic pattern, but I definitely believe in you, so I think you could do it. Anyway, but like as I was going through, I talked to them about, what would you add to make this more beginner friendly? If this was your first sweater, what would you want to see? I love test knitters. And one of the big things that stuck out to them was really just the short rows, and that a lot of people that knit for kids don't want short rows in their patterns. Totally understand. I don't see a ton of kids patterns with short rows. So I am working on a version with my tech editor that does not have short rows. However, it will not be out when this pattern launches. I'm going to send it as an update. So of course, if you buy this pattern, it will just come through. And you can decide, do you want short rows or do you want something different for your sweater? This is my son's, and I knit the size too big for him so that he can wear it this year and next year. I used Cascade 220 Superwash from my local yarn store. A lot of my test knitters use this yarn, but it was also fun to see them pull from their stash and use whatever they met gauge with. I will link my local yarn shop below because they have an excellent selection of Cascade 220. It's not an affiliate link though, it's just because I love my local yarn shop and I want them to do well. So here it is. It's comfy, oversized. Honestly, I'm like, oh, this is close to fitting me. It's supposed to be oversized, and one of the reasons that I made it like that is because a lot of people love to gift knit kids knits, and it's hard to know the size. And so if there is a good amount of ease for this sweater, then it is more likely to fit, at least in my opinion. The second part to this pattern is the embellishment. So it's called the initial sweater in case it's your first sweater, but also in case you want to make it have an initial on it. I wanted it to be really DIY friendly, so there's no texture on the front or the back, and you can just embroider or crochet, whatever you'd like to do. I did a crochet initial on mine, but in the pattern there are lots of ideas, links, tips for embroidery or this type of crochet chain. I also include pictures of my test knitters in the pattern itself, so you can see ideas of what they made. I will put some here. There are so many lovely ones. You can see them on Ravelry, you can see them on my Instagram, you can see them in the pattern itself if you choose to buy it. I personally love working with my test knitters. The design process is a long one for me, and so it helps a little bit to have these test knitters, sending messages to each other, helping me to make it be the best pattern that it can be. And I just really, really enjoy working with them. I see this hashtag sometimes, it says test knitters are the best knitters, and I really believe it. I am just so grateful to my test knitters. If you want to be a test knitter, I send those out first through my email list, and that is now through Substack, so you can subscribe below in the description, and that'll get you on my email list. Okay, believe it or not, that is all I have today for my knitting content, but I just really wanted to go on and talk about my hand-dyed sweater and also my pattern launch. And I am grateful for you guys. A lot of positive commentary on my last video where I shared 5 podcasts under 5K that you should be watching. I had so much fun making that video. I felt like such a hype girl. I was loving looking at my friends' channels and just reading about what they've been doing. I loved dropping more people in the description box that I think you should follow. It was just really fun. I enjoyed making that video a lot. I don't know if it was because I was hyping up other people instead of talking about myself, or just the joy of spreading the community love. I just really enjoyed it. So I would like to make more content like that. But if there's something you would like to see from me or some type of topic, please let me know in the comments. I am always open to making a new type of video if I have the nap time to record it in. Okay, so let's chat hobbies. I'm going to talk garden and reading. I have let my garden go a little bit. I kind of forgot that I planted a bunch of stuff. Sadly, all my butternut squash were eaten by bugs, so I did not get any, which I was so disappointed. But it was a good learning experience that, yes, it's wonderful to plant them late in the summer, but the disease and pest pressure was so high that I really didn't get a ton of produce from them. And now my pole beans, on the other hand, are going crazy. And I recently, this weekend, my son and I picked a bunch, and I wanted to show you guys. And also, if anyone's watching this and you have done this before, please let me know what to do. But my pole beans are I'm is this inedible? Some of them are just the normal, this is the one I would put in our dinner. But I don't know what to do with ones that have gone like this. And most of them have gone like this. A lot of them. Should I just freeze them to put in a soup or something? Are they even usable? Please let me know. Because I have a whole bucket of them that look like this. My mom came over the other day and she said, "Did you know you have so many beans?" That's when I remembered them. Because I have 2 beds over here by the screen and porch I can see from the kitchen. My tomatoes, I'm still getting a lot of tomatoes since we haven't had a freeze. I'm just bringing them inside and letting them ripen on the counter. They don't taste great, but they're going to be good in a soup, I'm telling myself. But I also have 2 beds that I can't see through the windows, and I often forget about them. So yes, that's what I've been doing in my garden. Not too much. And yeah, what do I do with these beans? Okay, next is my reading. At the last update, you guys gave me some great book suggestions because I have been in a bit of a sad book slump. Most of the books I've been reading have just been sad. Yeah. And a lot of you resonated with not really wanting to read more sad books right now just because there are so many things in the world that are sad and tragic and awful, and we see them on the news. So reading can be an escape. Of course, I know that some people are reading to really immerse themselves in those experiences and build up their empathy and how they can be involved. And that was my goal with reading this last book, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. I finished it, 5 stars, 100%. It was a beautiful book. It was breathtaking. The descriptions of Syria, of Syria's people, of the food, of just the life that they built there, and then also the descriptions of the tragedy and the violence and trauma that the main characters experienced. The writing was beautiful. The audiobook, I listened to most of it on audiobook. It has won awards. It was incredible. But do I recommend it? I don't know if I recommend it. It's a really heavy read. I think everyone should probably read it at some point because yeah, for all the reasons that I've talked about. However, yeah, it was a really heavy book. I definitely had to skip some of the descriptions of violence and suffering because, yeah, it was really hard to read. But I know people are living that out right now. And so anyway, it's a whole mix. And you guys gave me some recommendations for books that are still meaningful, but brighter and more uplifting, I suppose. There was a lot of hope in this book, which is why I continued to read it and why I finished it and gave it 5 stars. It was a tough one for sure. Anyway, I read one since then. It was not one of the recommended, although I am putting those on my to be read list. I just found this one-off book in my Goodreads recommendations and I went for it. It's called Far and Away. It is a story of a house swap gone awry. I have the descriptors for you: fiction, romance, contemporary, humor, travel, adult fiction, summer. I think that nailed it. I don't know if I would say romance. I don't know that there was really any romance. I am not going to give it a star rating. It honestly felt more of like a Hulu or Netflix limited series. Didn't feel like a piece of like literature at all, but it was what I needed to just have something enjoyable to listen to in the car or when I'm out walking. And I really enjoyed the travel part. Like, someone from Berlin swaps houses with someone in Texas, and it really just talks about their families, which I liked. I like hearing about their kids and their dogs and all of that, and just how it gets messy and funny, and there's a lot of miscommunications, but not in a way that's painful. It was just kind of funny and definitely like a summer read. It's from 2025. It came out this summer. I would recommend it for some sort of beach read or like escape read where you just want to laugh or think these people are so silly. What are they doing? Yeah, it was enjoyable to me. It had almost 400 pages, so definitely a longer read. But overall, yeah, I would recommend for just something fun and lighthearted to read. It wasn't anything too serious. The epilogue definitely tied everything up so neatly. So I will say, like, it's not really a believable story. I don't think it's realistic at all. However, it was fun. And it definitely got me thinking about, like, is that a thing? Do people swap houses? Does somebody in Europe want to come live in my suburban North Carolina lifestyle? Probably not. Now I think I might read Remarkably Bright Creatures, which quite a few of you guys recommended in my last episode. I think that will be good for me because it's more in the middle from what I've read between the really deep, tragic sort of reading and then the lighthearted but not very meaningful sort of book. I think it will be in the middle from what I've read about it so far. So I am going to start reading that later today and hopefully also get a physical copy from the library. Okay, if you've made it through my knitting, my hobbies, thank you for being here. Don't forget to subscribe if you aren't a subscriber and leave me a comment with what you're working on. I hope you have a lovely weekend and happy knitting.